Hello my friends and welcome. In this video I'm gonna tell you about one of the most stupid Russian attacks, I would say, for the last year. We're gonna look not just on military map, but we're gonna analyze some of the drone images in this video, so bear with me guys, let's start, because the Russians are just sending their forces one way, I mean literally, because there was no way out for the Russian forces in this across the Brapila direction. Russians tried to attack Vladimirovka. We have more of the information about this Russian attempt. So Vladimirovka and Shakhova. Let's switch to the different image. Yeah, here we go. Vladimirovka and Shakhova. Russians have attacked from two of the directions. First one from the eastern side and the second one from the south. The idea was to attack Vladimirovka straightforward and also at the same time cut the way for Ukrainian army, trapping Ukrainian troops in this small settlement. But as you might see, judging on those images, it didn't work well for Russians. And this attack from Russia was really discoordinated. At first they sent some of the motorcycles and infantry forces. They proceeded to Vladimirovka and were spotted by Ukrainian drones and annihilated. Well, I cannot show you the entire video, but here's the Ghost Rider sitting on this bike, and it happened to the rest of the Russian attackers. Yeah, this motorcycle gang was kaputted, and later on Russians somehow decided to send a couple of the infantry fighting vehicles, which also were kaputted close to Vladimirovka. At the entrance to this village there were Ukrainian infantry forces spotted. What happened to them? Well, I'm in lack of this information, because I saw the video and the destiny for now is unknown. But what is known is the result of the Russian attack. And what happened to the Russian attack from the eastern flank? Well, the same scenario. At first, some of the motorcyclists, and later on Russia sent more of the armored vehicles, convoy of them, very close to each other. Quite a large number of the forces, even more than this southern attack. But the problem for the Russian army here is that there is the river and the bridge. As you might see, it has been kaputted before. And why did they decide to go there? Were they not aware about this bridge, which is kaputted for a very long time? Well, those motorcyclists, they proceeded to this point and stopped in front of the bridge, and immediately were kaputted by Ukrainian drones. Okay, so here are those Ghost Riders, and they stopped and put their motorcycles down in front of the bridge. And what is next? You just see it on your screens. Oh my god, it seems like the Russian commanders, they are not aware that this bridge is already gone, and they sent their soldiers for the straightforward kaput. There is no any other explanation. They're just unable to cross this river on those bikes. I would say just infantry, they may try to cross this river on their own, like swim or jump or something, but on those even enduro motorcycles, it's not possible. But later the same road, Russia sent 1, 2, 3, 4 and maybe next many of the armored vehicles. Some of the vehicles were stopped because of the fire, and probably they diverted straight forward to Vladimirovka, judging on those kind of the images. But not every Russian vehicle was that lucky. But you know what? Russians decided to send one more convoy, and Ukraine opened the fire once again. You can see it here, and they decided to turn back. And yeah, they were going back at this stage. Well, probably someone told them that the bridge is after all no-go, so they are unable to move there with their vehicles. But for many of those vehicles it was already kind of late, because Ukraine used some of the FPV drones chasing them. The drone job was performed by the 1st Azov Corps. And according to the information I have, because Russians were not able to proceed across this bridge, they turned part of their forces straight to Vladimirovka, so there could be some of the presence of the Russian army, but Ukraine is using lots of the drones in this area, so if Russians place themselves here, it doesn't mean that it is for a very long time. I personally consider it as a useless operation, judging on all of those Russian losses, but it's the first major counterattack of the Russian army in Pakros-Dobrapilya direction. Before just Ukraine was successful here, well, maybe Russians want to get Vladimirovka under control to let the group of the Russian army out out from this encirclement. So before Russia has withdrawn the forces partially from the southern part of the Pokrovsk direction, they sent those to Dnipropetrovsk Oblast, but at the same time Russia keeps the reserves in Dobropilya direction, even trying to counterattack, but all of those attacks are kind of clumsy, unplanned, and they lead to severe losses within the Russian army. Well, thanks to the stupid Russian commanders, the Ukrainian army is not losing this war. Nevertheless, about Vladimirivka, I'm waiting for the new update. Maybe Russians were capable to deploy some of the forces, because attack was a really strong one, but part of the forces they retreated back, knowing that something went wrong, but at the same time there could be some of the presence of Russians. I would put Vladimirivka for now in the gray area. Yeah, there are some of the fresh videos published from Vladimirivka, the previous failed Russian attack, lots of the vehicles being kaputted, and those bikers as well, so I cannot show you the entire video, guys. I will publish it on my Telegram channel. So this new image analysis tells that Russians stopped here at the ruined bridge, turned to Vladimirivka, and here they met their convoy which was proceeding from the south, and the rest of the kabooms were happening in Vladimirivka village. So maybe Vladimirivka is definitely a gray zone, but Ukraine used absolutely everything to demolish those Russian forces. Artillery, drones, even Gimmelers missiles were launched on the Russian positions, and the number of the vehicles and forces is just unprecedented for this direction. So it tells that the aim was not just to take Vladimirivka, but to proceed at least to Shakhova across this bridge, which was ruined before, well before, but Russian military commanders, they don't freaking care. Go across the ruined bridge and you'll be fine, they say. Yeah, I may imagine the faces of those Russian soldiers who actually get to that bridge at first. Yeah, those motorcyclists. Where are we? What should we do? And immediately, kaboom, that's it, vanished. Yeah, the planning is, oh my god. In Ukraine, people would say, like, what are you doing, our military command? There could be even protests, but for Russians, it's absolutely normal. You know, throwing the forces just like that after so many years of war. Yeah, Russian command really helps a lot. And let's go to the south, Mirolubivka. Here Russians also attacked. It was yesterday, it is today. This gray zone a little expanded and also partially turned into a red one. Well, I don't have the confirmation from the drone cameras. We have this update confirmed by some of the local Ukrainian commanders, and I guess that Russians, after all, they have the capabilities to move here, at least reaching the river of Sina, and those bridges, they actually could be kaputted by Ukraine before not letting Russians cross the river. And this is the 3D map, Mirnograd and Mirolubivka, from which Russians are trying to cross this river. About this amber area, just don't pay attention that this information was presented by Russian channels. As always, they lie about their territorial gains, so here is the bridge and there is one more downhill. For Russians, this is kind of the obstacle to advance to Mirnograd. Well, in real life, there is no such a huge elevation as it's shown here, but still it is out there, and for Russians, obviously, it's not an easy way to advance from this direction. So they do it like here, yeah, now, to go to this bridge, and also one more passage is out there across the river, but so far they go just mostly with the gray area, limited forces, some of the sabotage groups. In general, for Russians, it would be way more profitable to go just across the railroad or this road to reach the southern part of Mirnograd and with urban fights propel inside this settlement. Well, we'll see, because Russians are trying to split their forces all around in this particular direction. It is obvious that Pokrovsk and Mirnograd are their main goals, but judging on their small offensive or counter-offensive maneuvers, I wouldn't say that they are successful. From Pokrovsk Dobropilya, let's go to the south here, where Russians move every day. Yeah, today there was also movement here in Poltavka, plus in the northern side, Russians expanded the gray area in Alexeyevka. They landed their forces, some of the small groups, but still there is the presence. Well, that's kind of ambitious target for Russians, and I know that Ukraine uses lots of the drones on them in this village. For now, I don't see the variant for them to create a robust bridgehead in Alexeyevka under that huge fire. But Russians in general are moving here. We know that it's the new strategy of the Russian army to advance in Dnipropetrovsk region, plus Gerasimov sent more reinforcements. Very good news, Ukraine launched the strikes on Russian facilities, mainly the storages for the Russian vehicles and munition. The Ukrainian SBU organization, also responsible for the spiderweb operation, conducted those strikes. In this case, SBU used FP2 drones, which are very powerful. They carry more than 100 kilograms of the payload, so way more compared to FP1 type. The operation was conducted per a single night, and you see that this facility entirely it is ambushed. We may also say kaboom destroyed, so you see how many drones hit it. And later on FPV2 added some more. So here is, for example, yeah, wow, such a powerful kaboom. SBU officials stated that at least 10 of the storages for the Russian army were eliminated, with some of the vehicles, munition. Yeah, sadly we don't see the result from the very close perspective, but this attack was successful. Well, we have just the evidence from the Russian Ruzzian battalion, Nazi battalion by the way. Their barracks were also destroyed. All of the strikes happened far behind the front line, so Ukraine tries to target Russian logistics. Alright, let's go to other news. The previous night Russia attacked Ukrainian infrastructure, first of all electrical power plants, mainly in Kiev and also in Zaporizhia, plus Kharkiv, Poltava, Kharkiv and Kremenchuk. The capital city of Ukraine, Kiev, went to a total darkness because of those strikes. The main electrical substations and power plants were significantly damaged. Russians even used the hypersonic missiles, which are very hard to intercept, if not impossible. Well, Ukraine also hit some of the infrastructure in Russia. This is Volgograd, ex-name is Stalingrad. There is some sort of the smoke coming from the place. What kind of the place? Well, for now it is unknown. This report was just published. And about the possible supplyment of the Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine, well, what I know, negotiations are ongoing, which makes this probability more real, but still it's tiny little one. I'm not saying that it is impossible, because physically it is possible. United States, potentially, if they really want, they can deploy the ground launchers to Ukraine with those missiles. But whether it's gonna be a political will from the White House, I have great doubts about it. And Vladimir Putin was asked about those missiles today on a press conference. Well, he stated, once again, that Russia will reinforce its air defense. He didn't say, no, those are the missiles which might carry some of the nuclear warheads, so we should respond against NATO. It's better not to supply those missiles to Ukraine because it might lead to the Third World War. He didn't say it. He said, okay, we're gonna improve our air defense. It means that he's pretty much okay with this scenario, which means that the red line for the Tomahawk has already been crossed. Putin accepted that fate. The only question is now whether Trump is going to support that supplyment for Ukraine, because mostly what he does is blah blah blah. Donald Trump is mostly concerned about his Nobel Prize, which he wasn't able to win this year. But he posted this one: "Thank you, President Putin." So why did Donald Trump thank that murderer who, by the way, yesterday or the previous night, yeah, he killed Ukrainian civilians. His missiles were fired towards Ukraine. In Zaporizhia, a 7-year-old boy was perished in his house. And the next day we have thanks for Putin from President of the United States. It is only because Putin said that nominees did nothing to the world, but he, so Trump, solves complex problems, crises that last for decades. And Trump here thanks him for those words which Putin says just to make Trump happy. Oh my god. So if you want to manipulate American president, just tell him that he's the best out there. And he would thank you and probably do something for you as a reward. And for this reason, guys, I continue to tell that the probability for Ukraine to obtain Tomahawk missiles is close to zero. I think it's more blah blah blah. Even though Putin is more than okay with that. And yeah, it seems like Nobel Peace Prize for Donald is pretty much important thing. More important than supporting democracy in Ukraine. For him, scenario than Russia occupies Ukraine but there will be no war any longer, well, it is an acceptable scenario. This year, the Nobel Peace Prize goes for a Venezuelan oppositioner, who already stated that Donald Trump also deserved the Nobel Prize. Well, after all, she got it. I'm not here to review this kind of the internal political stuff on this channel. Maybe I'll record separate video on my other channel, where I stream every day and also publish some of the videos. Here I speak only about political news that in one or other way touch Ukraine. For example, let's speak about Orban. Alright, here he is probably more ugly or less, it's arguable. Well, nevertheless, he posted some of the tweets today relative to Ukraine. Ukraine has already gotten into the smartphones of Hungarians. We will not allow this. So the Prime Minister of Hungary stated that the Ukrainian intelligence has infiltrated the TISA party and is providing support to help them to come to power. And just for you to understand, the rating of TISA is higher than Fidesz. TISA is in opposition and the main competitor for Orban. So if everything stays the same, Orban loses the next elections in spring 2026. Orban also added, once we say the Russians are already in the pantry. Okay, that's the translation probably. Now we must say that Ukrainians are already in your smartphone. We will not allow this, said Orban. Well, if you watch me in Hungary from your smartphone, you have Ukrainian in your smartphone. Ooh. And I bet that Orban can do nothing about it. He might just suck Putin's carrot. That's what he can do. Alright, some news about Ukrainian military support. Rheinmetall will send those Skyranger 35 air defense systems to Ukraine pretty much soon. Well, at least they say they promise it as soon as possible, however they do not specify the timing for delivery. Well, this air defense is similar to Gepard, but it has just one cannon to operate against drones, and not only. Well, mostly it will be used against drones. Yes, it will reinforce Ukrainian air defense. For example, this Russian cruise missile was shot down by something. By what? It's hard to tell. Probably it was a portable Vampire air defense, which is very effective, as you saw on the video. In the United States, there is the project of the drone boat equipped with this system. And also there could be a bigger Ukrainian support from the European Union, because they're working to confiscate Russian assets and to spend those for Ukrainian defense. The major part of the European bureaucrats are working hard for it to happen, but of course there is an opposition, first of all from Orban. Well, of course we'll be happy if Europe manages to do it, to take Russian money and to spend those for Ukraine. That's the best scenario ever, but no, in Europe it's very slow, it's very regulated. There are multiple of the opinions. It's not an easy way. And guys, my job is possible just because of your kind support on Patreon and on membership of this YouTube channel. So if you want to support my job, please join me on Patreon. The link is in the video description below. As for the members of YouTube channel, just press the join button. Thank you for making this content possible. My friends, I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are, and have a great time.